Hey there, this is Katie from the Health, Wellness, and Chocolate podcast. And today I wanted to talk to you about creating wellness routines in your life that you can start now because it is the beginning of the year and it is the perfect time to start a wellness routine. And the reason why I'm going to give you some tips on how to create a wellness routine is because, I think we think sometimes like, oh, we'll just magically have time once the fall comes because our days are going to be so much more structured. Or, oh, in the new year, this is going to be great. I'm going to have plenty of time and I'll be able to start my wellness routine then. Or, oh, it's the summer and, summertime is so much more relaxed and I'll have plenty of time to hit those wellness goals that I set for myself. But really what happens is the days kind of fill up. Or, we wind up like they're just so full that we, lose track of time or just never really get around to it. So I wanted to teach you some tools that I learned how to be more intentional with your time so that creating a wellness routine doesn't seem hard or really impossible at all. So here's just like the podcast is really kind of just about some practical tips now that it's fall and there's a more scheduled routine. This past weekend, we took our daughter to college. And so there's been a whole bunch of, emotions going on right now. And, we spent all last week, we went to the beach and tried to have some downtime and just spend some, time together as a family. I know I needed that. So a lot of times in the podcast, I talk about emotional eating and how to make sure you kind of identify what your needs are so that you can kind of be proactive and make sure that you're full and your emotions are taken care of and your needs are met so that you're not trying to fill that void up with food. And so knowing the big emotions that I was going to feel dropping my daughter off at college and knowing I'm going to be missing her. School started for us. We homeschool. And so today was our first day of homeschooling. And so it was our first day without her here. And knowing, okay, that's going to, I'm going to feel sad about that. So like, what can I do? So, last week we went to the ocean because that's one of my favorite places to be. And then I made sure, we had something special for dinner to kind of celebrate and just made sure I couldn't put anchors in the day. Yesterday, after we had dropped her off, we had the whole next day quiet and just able to be home and kind of regroup. And so I tried to be very intentional with how we planned out the days leading up to and after so that I could make sure emotionally there wasn't a deficit so that it wasn't so easy to like, let's just bake cookies and eat them. It's that temptation is gone and you kind of come from a better place where it's like, okay, I know I feel sad right now. I'm just going to chill out and maybe watch the Magnolia Network, right? Which is like my new favorite thing to do. So, just trying to find ways of comforting without needing to turn to food to do it. Okay. And you're creating a wellness routine is kind of like a way to create that comfort for yourself so that food isn't so important, right? That's really kind of the foundation is like creating a life you love where food is not so important. So how do you do that, right? Like how do you carve out time for wellness if your days are super full? So I know for me with 8 kids, if I didn't create intentional time and kind of like anchors in the day of where it's like, okay, this I'm going to do for myself, or, now is when I'm going to move my body, then I wouldn't because no one is ever going to knock at the door and say, oh, I think it's time for you to go take care of yourself. That's never going to happen. So you really kind of need to know okay, what do I need to take care of myself? And then going forward, what does that look like for me? So, and I've given examples so far, when I go to record the podcast, I always am a little nervous. So I always make sure I have a little cup of tea and I can hold it in my hands when I talk to you. And I find that comforting. In the wintertime, I sit on a heated blanket because I like the warmth. I find that comforting, right? So look for little pockets of comfort. And that is part of a wellness routine. So if you're thinking, okay, this is just about what I'm going to eat and how to move my body. Yes, that is part of the equation. But the other part of the equation is also making sure your body and your mind and your soul are nourished so that you're not using food to fill up yourself all the time, right? So you have to be realistic also when you're carving out time and creating a wellness routine. You can't, and I've given this example before, like, yes, I would love to join a gym and do, actually, I would love to try CrossFit. I think I would really enjoy that, but it's not in my budget right now, and it's not in my time frame right now. Like, I really wouldn't have time to go and do that, and I know that. So rather than join it, spend the money, and then get frustrated or mad at myself for doing it, like I'm setting up realistic guidelines for myself instead of setting up ideals and then being mad that I couldn't hit them. I'm like looking at this through a realistic lens. But if you look at your day, you're going to notice there's natural pockets of time that you might not come across without paying attention to it. So if you've ever noticed, and if you really don't think you have pockets of time, I would challenge you, like, take this week and almost be meticulous about how you're spending your time. Because I really am pretty sure that you'll find, like, oh, I just wasted 30 minutes scrolling Instagram, watching reels, or, scrolling Facebook, or checking out Pinterest, right? Like, there's pockets of time that you have that you might not be aware of just because you fill your time if you're bored. So, for example, school is starting, the kids are at school. So I don't know about you, but like sometimes my kids have appointments, or they have music lessons or sports or something like that, where there's some downtime where you're kind of waiting for them. Could you use that time to just stroll around the parking lot? And it might not be like, a wonderful walk, but it's at least you're moving your body and you're not just sitting there scrolling on your phone, right? Like, you kind of have to get creative, especially if you are short on time. So, one example was 2 of my kids used to take piano lessons, and they would be at the church would let the kids use the piano, and the teacher would just meet us there. So I would just walk around the parking lot while they were inside. Each had like a 30-minute lesson, or it might have even been 20-minute lessons each. It wasn't very long. But that was 40 minutes, and I had the baby with me, and I'd put the baby in a stroller, and I would just walk around the parking lot. So rather than just sitting there trying to keep the baby entertained, or trying to just kind of be bored waiting for them to be done, I tried to use that time in a better way, right? And so I would just take that time to go ahead and walk and move around. So, like, are there times in your day where there are kind of just blank times, like you can't really adjust it, but maybe you can tweak it somehow, or you can't change it, I should say, but maybe you can adjust it so that it does work for you in a better way. And even if it's only a few minutes, like 15, every little bit kind of contributes to the bank account of wellness, right? So if you can identify points in your day where you're like, you know what, instead of, like, for me, it was like 4:00 used to get really crazy, and the kids would kind of be wiry, and it's like, you know what, let's just go outside. Let's go outside and walk, and I can just literally walk around the driveway or my yard. And that's what we did, right? Like, it wasn't anything epic. It was not a, let's go join the gym and we're there for 2 hours, that kind of thing. It was just like, let's go outside and do that instead, okay? So, like, say you work full time and you are very crunched, but maybe you get an hour lunch break. So maybe eat for 15 minutes and then take the other 45 and move your body somehow. Is there a walking path nearby that you can get to? Get creative, though. Like, you really need to find a specific situation that's unique to you and then make it work. Because when you have a goal, if you are committed to it, you will find ways to make it work, okay? You will definitely be able to work it out when it's something that you want to do. Sometimes before breakfast could be a quick time for you to get in some movement, or even after dinner. Right now, it's not getting too dark out too early yet, so we go, we'll also go outside after dinner and just let the kids run around. And for us, it's a little bit better than just everybody goes and crashes on the couch and watch TV, right? Like, we'll go outside, they'll play, they'll burn off whatever leftover energy they have. And I can connect with my husband too. We can walk around together if he's home and kind of catch up on how our days were. So that's an added bonus too. And that also contributes to your wellness, especially when it comes to the wellness of your relationships, okay? Now, so that's kind of ideas for you to start moving your body. Basically, look for pockets of time that you might not really realize you could be using to move around with, and then get creative and see what you can do with it. Or maybe it means getting up a little early. That happens. But if it's something that's important to you, you'll have to find the time, right? Like, even if it hurts a little, pay now. As far as getting up early, the benefits of exercise will far outweigh whatever inconvenience it is to get up even a little bit earlier, just to make sure you have enough time in your day to do it. Now, let's talk about eating and a meal plan. For you, especially when the fall comes, I know like sports activities pick up and like life really kind of turns up a bit. The relaxed schedule from the summer is over, and it's maybe harder for you. I mean, sometimes we think, oh, it'll be easier because we'll have more structure and routine, but typically what happens is it gets harder because the days kind of fill up so much faster. So look at your week ahead of time and see if you have an afternoon available to maybe batch cook, maybe make 2 or 3 double-sized portions of meals for your family, and then that's what you eat for the next 6 days, right? Like, get creative again, and then see, when you have time to go ahead, knowing like, okay, I know Sunday afternoons are pretty quiet. I could probably cook for 3 days worth then, or, maybe it's Wednesday afternoons or whatever, but like, look at your schedule and say, you know what? I know on these specific days I'll have time to cook, but on these days I don't. What can I do on those days that I don't have time to cook? So we're not tempted to grab fast food, or we're not just eating, really quick on the fly, but at least it's nourishing. I find like for us, soups heat up really quick. I can make a lot of it. It doesn't take a lot of effort, and they're easy. And then I can even freeze the leftovers and defrost them at a later date. And so soups or chilies are usually like an easy, healthy, nourishing go-to frozen meal to have in the freezer, especially as the days get cooler. They do feel comforting too. And also, I don't know if you're aware, but if you go to healthwellnessandchocolate.com, I do have a grocery list printable that's available there for free. You can download it. It's my actual grocery list that I use, and then I give you 14 meal ideas that you can make from the grocery list. They're quick. They're like 30 minutes or less. They're healthy and nourishing. It's food that we eat. Usually, typically, we don't vary too much. We're not that creative, but it's, I put that together, and you can go and check that out at healthwellnessandchocolate.com. It just says free grocery printable at the top. So that you can find helpful as well. There's also subscription services for meal planning, and those always help too, especially if you're not sure like what to eat and what you like. E-meals is one of them. For us, like doing a subscription box like HelloFresh or like that does not fit in our budget. I think it would be really cool to try, and that's like they send you the food and you just have to prepare it, but it comes in a box. I think it's a subscription. I would love to try something like that, but it's just like for feeding 10 people, I don't really think they make like jumbo boxes. So that's not something in this season of life like I'll be able to check out. But if it's you and maybe only like 3 or 4 other people, like maybe that's something that you can look into and do. And so you can make sure you have fresh, healthy, nourishing food, especially as your schedule starts to fill. But I would just say, like, if you have a chance, say on a Sunday, to look at your week ahead of time and then just try to plan it out, that does save so much emotional energy too, because then you're not like, oh, what's for dinner? What am I going to make? I don't know. Do I have this? Do I have to run out and get it? Like, it kind of eliminates a lot of the mind effort that you have to put into trying to think of what to make for dinner every single day. So that is something that would definitely benefit you. And then the last part of wellness would be finding time in your schedule for downtime or having fun, connecting with friends, having time for prayer, having time to reflect and quiet time. How is that going in your life? We talk about wellness and health, and I think a lot of times it ends after food and exercise, right? But there's really so much more to having a healthy life than just moving your body and eating, right? So I want to challenge you, like, take a look and actually kind of go through in your mind, like, okay, where where do I feel like in my relationships are lacking? Like maybe my relationship with my husband is fine, but I feel like maybe I could stand to have a better relationship with my kids. Or maybe I need some more friendships. Like I don't feel like I have enough connections in that area, and I want to work on those, or maybe you feel like you're feeling very anxious and you feel like you need time to disengage from the news and pay attention, maybe, and pray and be reading a Bible and spending time in quiet reflection instead of, scanning the news the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning. All those things contribute to your health and wellness, right? So this week, take a look at your life. Like, where are the biggest gaps? So what do you want more of? Is it friends? Is it romance, adventure, rest, purpose, meaning, prayer, or reflection, right? Choose the biggest need in your life that you feel that is lacking, and then try to come up with 3 ways that you can get that need met. And this is important because if you're not aware that these are needs that you have and you're not figuring out ways to get them met, you will fill up with food. And I almost say it's like that you spin the wheel of vice, because your brain is going to make sure that your needs are met, whether or not you're aware of them. And so if you're an emotional eater, your brain will just tell you like you're chronically hungry, right? You never feel full or satisfied. So you're always like driven to eat. If you're, if you're someone who turns to alcohol, like that's what your drive will be. If you're someone who just, tends to overspend, like that's where you'll try to fill up with. Or if it's gossip or drama, like you'll find ways to fill yourself up that are not necessarily constructive, which is why it's so important to figure out where you're feeling empty and look for ways that are positive to fill yourself up with instead. And like I said, wellness is so much more than eating and exercise. It includes everything about you, your whole personhood, right? And so your body, your mind, and your soul, if any of those areas are not being met appropriately, then you will use something else to fill out. So be intentional. Look at your pockets of time. You're never going to magically, they're never going to magically just appear so you can nurture yourself. So keep in mind, as a mom, your intentional wellness efforts will ripple into the rest of your family. So for us, right, like if I'm intentional about at 4:00, I have to go outside, I have to de-stress and decompress, I will bring them with me, right? And they're naturally getting the benefit of me being intentional about my health and wellness. And they'll notice the behavior, and they'll notice how you're coping. They'll notice how you're dealing with your emotions. And then they'll mirror that, okay? So this is not just something that you should feel selfish about, but something that you can really use to benefit the rest of your family. So for us, like going outside after dinner is another way that we can nurture our family. I get the benefit of moving my body around, but I also get the benefit of connecting with them, having fun with them, playing with them, and also the rest of the kids get that benefit too of playing with mom and dad, and we're not just zoning out on the couch veggie. There's time and place for that, but there's also a time and a place for your wellness and health. But I'm going to go because I hear my little guy, who's 2, kind of throwing a little fit, and I need to go see what's going on. But head over to the Health, Wellness, and Chocolate.com website and grab the Printable. It's totally free. And I hope you found this helpful. I hope you are bracing yourself for the fall and what's coming up for you. Any big life changes for you too. I hope you're bearing it well and making sure you get some comfort. All right. You take care and have a great week. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.